start recording this in case somebody wants to watch it again. So we had our little setup here for the lab where we had 3 fixtures that we just wanted to assign motion instructions and have the robot go around these instructions. And so the first part of the lab, you were supposed to teach the user frame and then the tool frame. So let me kind of remind you there. Actually, the tool frame, we can excuse me, we can use the little green TCP globe on the robot here, and we can like just double click on that, and we can actually teach the tool frame through the, oops, I guess I didn't actually have the tool. Click on the tool itself actually, and you can go to the U tool tab, and you can edit the U tool, and then you can drag this green TCP globe where you need it to be, adjust those values, and then you can say use that, and it will assign those, and you can then close the window, and you're good to go, and that will set your tool frame. So if we look at the frames, then remember, to get to frames, we go to menu, setup, frames, and then by default it actually puts you on the tool frame. And so you can see the tool frame, and then if you hit enter here, which my screen is kind of large, I guess, and so I can't see it with this, so I like to switch teach pendants sometimes, so I can hit the rest of the keys. So it's kind of a toss-up. You can't see the screen as well, but you can hit the keys. So let's see, menu, setup, and then hit enter, and you can see those are your values for your tool frame. Okay, and so what we want to do then is we want to set these in Blackboard. So you open the assignment in Blackboard. So if we come over here to Blackboard and open our assignment, and I just, I have a couple of questions here. And then, so you need to go through and answer those questions. Okay, a lot of these are kind of some review questions and stuff. So, but when we get to question 16, I'm asking about the tool center point for your tool. And so we want to, this is your frame that you're teaching. So you just need to click on these and select. So like the, X and Y should be 0. And then the Z should be 360. And then your yaw, pitch, and roll should all be 0. Okay, so there you go. There's your answer for your tool frame. All right, so what I did here was I just gave you these drop downs, and I gave you various values, and you just need to pick the closest one. Okay, so hopefully I've got, the correct one in there. So then for the next part, we were supposed to teach the tool frame or the user frame, right? So we hit, if we're looking at the tool frame numbers, we hit previous and get back to just the listing of all the different tool frames available, press other, and then we can come down and select our user frame. And then you were supposed to teach the user frame. So you should have went in there and did the 3-point method to teach the user frame around your box. And then that should give you these numbers here. And so we're going to do the same thing then. Now notice here, like this is $13.99, And 0.7 is what I did teaching it using the 3-point method. So I was off a little bit. But again, we just want to select the value closest to that in Blackboard. Okay. So is there any questions about that? How to enter those values in Blackboard here? Hopefully not. All right. So then the next thing is, like, we were actually supposed to go through then and create the program. And so I created one program, which wasn't complete, but I created this program, HR Shapes. Right. And so that HR Shapes program was a bunch of motion instructions that was supposed to go around the brown box, then go around the red box, and then go around the blue circle, both clockwise and then counterclockwise. All right. So now I never finished that, but I just did the program to go around the brown box. And so, you know, we can test this using, hold down the shift key, turn the teach pin on, and hit forward, you know, and we can watch it go around the box. And then what we want to do is to, you know, and then this program, when it's finished, would go around the red box and then the blue circle a couple of times. But then we were supposed to create some other programs. So to remember, to create a program, you can go to select and then hit F2 to create a program. And then we can name that program. So this would be like, for me, it would be HR, and then I think I forget, we called this brown box or something here. So BR, I'm just going to end it at N for now. Okay. But you need to make sure that you get your names correct. And then if you hit detail here, then you could go in and you could set the detail. And some of these later on are going to be macros. So you could make them macros now if you wanted. While you're in the detail, and then hit end, and you can edit the program. Now, if I go back to my shapes program, let's say that I wanted to copy lines 2 through 6. So I come down here to line 2, and I'm going to go to touch up, or excuse me, not touch up. I'm going to hit next, and then F5 will say edit command, and I'm going to select copy, and I'm going to press F2. And then I'm going to select all the lines I want to copy, which I'm going to do 2 through 6. And then press F2 again to copy that. Now I'm going to go back to the program I just created, HR Brown. And I'm going to paste these in here. Okay, and this is a bit of a review for pasting here. So when I come back here, I go to copy, and I'm going to paste. Okay. So I'm just going to paste these lines in here using the choice position ID. Okay. So when I paste these using position ID, you see there we have, you know, it was 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.2. Those are the points that I copied, right? However, watch what happens when I go and try to run this now. So I do a shift forward. Woohoo! I get the INTP311 error, which says uninitialized data. Oh gosh, looking at this screen, it looks fine. There's no problem with that. However, if we arrow over to our point and we select position, you can see there's no X, Y, or Z. They're just all starred out. Yaw, pitch, and roll. Everything's just starred out. There's no data in there. Right? Because remember, when you paste using the ID number, it copies the ID number, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever they are. Okay, but it doesn't actually copy the data. And since 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, none of those points existed in this program, all it did was create those points, those positions, with start out data because it didn't know what to make of them. It knew what 0.2 was back in the original program, but in this program, it doesn't know. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come back over to the line number, edit command. I'm going to undo this. Okay, and then I'm going to paste again. Now, I've already copied them. They're already copied. All I have to do is paste. But now I'm going to paste position. And so when I paste the position, then you can see that it actually gives numbers. And actually, the numbers here are actually counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because it starts counting at the next free point. Okay. And so it puts those in there. But now if we look at the position, we can see that those values are actual valid numbers now. Okay, so this is just a review of that copy and paste. And especially when you're a lot of times when you're copying in the same program, you probably want to use the position ID choice for the paste. But when you're copying into a new program, a different program, you got to be very careful. Most of the time there, you're going to want to paste the actual position and not the ID number. Okay, because if it's a brand new program, those ID numbers, those don't exist, and so you're going to get uninitialized data. However, what could even be worse than that is if you're pasting it into a program that already had a 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, and you paste it in there, it can the problem is that point may be somewhere completely different in the other program, because remember, 0.2 in one program isn't 0.2 in another program. And we can see that right here because remember, I just pasted these, but when I pasted them, it gave me a 0.1. So 0.1 in this program, which is the HR Brown program, 0.1 in the Brown program has a position of 0.2, almost 0, basically 0, 0, 0, with a yaw of minus 180 and then a 0 and a 0. All right. But let's go back over to the shapes program and look at 0.1 there. 0.1 there is labeled home. And 0.1 there has a Z of plus 77. So in the shapes program, 0.1 is got a 0 Z, or no, this is the shapes program. In the shapes program here, Z is 77. But in the HR Brown program, Z was 0. Okay, so you got to be very careful when you're pasting points that you're aware of what you're pasting and what they are. Because if I was to paste 0.1 over into the other program now, into the HR Brown program, it's going to take on the 0.1 has a 0 Z because that's what 0.1 is already defined as in the Brown program. But in the HR Shapes program, it's defined as having a Z of 77. So those points are unique in each program. All right, so I've got two different programs here. I've got my HR Shapes and my HR Brown program. And I also have my frames, right? So if we go look at our frames under setup here, I go to frames. And we looked and we see, here's my frame value. User frame has a 1399.7 in the X and minus 469.9 in the Z. Okay. Now, remember that all the robots have a built-in web server. And so in Roboguide, we can access that web server using the special local host IP address that all Ethernet computers have. So every Ethernet computer has, let me move this window out of the way here for a minute. So every Ethernet computer has an IP address 127.0.0.1. Okay. And that's kind of like just, you know, for you and I, when we talk about ourselves, we might say me or I. Well, that's what this 127.0.0.1 is. It's like saying me, this computer. All right. So it's kind of like this computer saying me. And so since I've got Roboguide running, and Roboguide has this built-in web server, when I go to a web browser and I type in 127.0.0.1, I connect to the web server of your virtual machine within the robot. Okay. And so when you do that, then you can come down and you can list variable files. Okay. And so you can list these variable files. And if you come over here, you see there's two columns here. One is called binary format and one is ASCII format. And the binary format is the actual file, but the ASCII one lets us at least view it. So if I hit system frame here, we can see that here's my user frame, right, with this 1399.7 number in it. And if we scroll on down, we see that there is the tool frames. Okay, so here's my tool frame with its Z of 360. All right, and so this file, now this is just an ASCII file for us to just view and browse the settings. Okay, but when we look at its companion over here, sysframe.sv, that's the binary file. And so we have the sysframe.sv is your binary frames file. Now that is for all the frames set up in your robot. And then if we hit the back button and we look at TP programs, we get kind of the same thing here. We have my hrbrown.tp program and the hrshapes.tp. And if we click on the ls, which is the ASCII format, we can read that and see here are the motion instructions. We can see the date and time the thing was created. We can see the group mask. Right there's my group mask. And we can see any comment that we would have put in there. Okay, and we could also see if we had like made it a macro or something like that. It should be listed in here. All right, but then we can see the points. So here are those points that exist in here. Okay, so now when I want to save my files for the lab, okay, I can go and grab all the files by opening Windows Explorer. So if I open up Windows Explorer here, the file manager, my taskbar is on the other screen. But if I open up the file manager, I can traverse over to the files. Okay, and so actually, I guess before we do that, if we look at our Roboguide, right? If we look at the settings in Roboguide, if we're not sure where the files are, one of the things we could do is we could go into those settings. We can come over to Tools, Options, and under the General tab, we can see where your work cell is being saved at. Okay, so this is the default location here, where C205 is your username for your Windows computer. I'm using the school laptop here, So I've got this generic C205 numbering as the name. So it's the name of your username, but you know, this is my username on this laptop. And so you know, and you can actually copy that if you wanted to. Do a, you know, highlight it, do a Control-C and copy that. Close that. I'm just going to minimize that. Come over to your window file manager here, and you can actually just paste that in there. So you can paste it in there, or you can just traverse to it, whichever you prefer. But we're going to see the C drive, users, your username, documents, my work cells. And then under my work cells, you should see your particular, I've got several different, each one of these that you're looking at is another virtual robot that I've set up on this laptop. And so the one we're working at with right now is the Lab Week 11 shapes. So we double click on that. We're going to go to save points. And then you see there's a lot of different save points. These ones I can kind of force myself, but this is an auto save that it does all the time. And so usually the auto save is probably going to be the newest, unless you just did a save. And so you can double click on that auto save, go to Robot 1, and here are all these files. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm looking for my 2 files, or actually I think you guys should have like 4 or 5 files when you're done, but they should start with your initials, right? So I'm looking for HR, HR Brown, and HR Shapes. Okay, those are the only 2 I have created right now. And we also, so what I'm going to do to select those, okay, to select both of them, I'm going to select one, I'm going to hold down the Control key, and I'm going to select all the other ones that I want to add for the lab. And then I'm going to scroll on down here, and I also want to select this frame.sv file. Okay. Now, one thing about Windows, a lot of times Windows, they like to hide the extensions from you. They like to be nice and neat, not show you the extensions. So if you're not quite sure, if you come up to View, under View, the View menu here in your File Explorer, you should find something with a little checkbox that says something like File Name Extensions. And normally your extensions are hidden. This box is unchecked, and then you may or may not see the extensions. Okay, so if your extensions aren't showing, go to View and check that file name just so you can be sure you're grabbing the right file. All right, now I did that, which lost my selection. So I'm going to come back down here. Or did I change path here? H. There they are. Okay. All right. So I'm going to, again, hold down the Control key, select your programs, their .tp programs, and your frame file. Now I let go of the Control key, and I'm going to right click and hold the right click for a little bit, and then let go of it. And it says send to, and I'm going to send it to a compressed zipped folder. Okay. And then it's going to ask me for the name here, and I'm just going to call this my HR shapes.zip file. Okay, so there's my HRshapes.zip file. Now notice it actually created it in that same directory. All right, and so I'm actually going to copy this directory here so I know I can get back to it in case Blackboard doesn't want to take me there directly. So I'm going to come up here, click up here in the address window, and just copy, highlight this, and press Control-C or right click and say copy, however you want to do it. Then I'm going to come back over to Blackboard, and over here in Blackboard, I kind of tried to walk you through this with to zip these files up, but I was just doing it now in the video to help. And I'm going to click on Browse My Computer, and I'm just going to paste in this directory, okay, down here under File Name. No, it won't move me. Okay, so I thought it would move me up there, but I need to, up here in the address bar, if it didn't put you in that directory, go ahead and click on that. And then once it did, then in the file name, you can type in like your initials there and just select the zip file. Okay, you don't want to upload the .tp files or whatever, but just the zip file that has all the TP files that you created for the lab in it and the frame file. Okay, so just go ahead and create those and then click on open. And we're not really opening it, but we're attaching it. And then that will upload it and it will be attached and it'll say selected answer down here. And if you decide that that's the wrong file, you can remove it and go through it again. But you click on Browse My Computer. Make sure that this path to the directory is the correct path. Okay, if it isn't, like I say, you could copy it or paste it or just traverse to it, whatever. And then down here under file name, just, you should be able to, if you named it hrshapes.zip or, your initials.zip, just type out first couple in there. It should show all of them that begin with those, but select the zip file, open it, and attach it. Okay. And then, just double check all your answers before you do a save and submit. Okay, but you can do a save all answers anytime you make any changes just to make sure they get saved back to the Blackboard server. All right, so Robert has a question here. I just saw it there about how to name points. Absolutely. Let's go back over to, I minimized it, the program here and the teach pendant. Okay, and so to name a point, all right, remember edit at any time will take you to your will take you back to your program that you're currently working on. So I'm currently working on the shapes program. And if I want to add a label to any kind of point, or could be a register, could be a label, but I want to, I'm on point 4 right now. And so I want to label this point 4. I can just like come in here. And what I did here is I arrow over to the number 4 and press the enter key. And then once you press the enter key, then you have your F1 through F5 here give you your alphabet. You can arrow down to use lowercase. You can arrow down to 4 and do a keyboard. Now notice I'm not getting the keyboard option here because I have the older style teach pendant. Okay, and so I've got to come up here if I want to label this, and I can label this and just call this I'm going to call this the far corner. Okay, so I'm going to say far, and I want a lowercase a, so I'm going to come down to the lowercase a, and I want a lowercase r. Okay, now I want a space. To get a space, I just use the arrow key to move over and leave that blank there. Leave that space in there. Far, and then this was going to be a corner. I want corner to be capital again, so I'm going to back up to the capitals and select C, move over, go back to lowercase, and this was going to be corner. Okay, and then N, E, and R. Okay. And if you mess up, you can backspace. Then if you hit F5 over here, under lowercase, you can like they give you. I mean, you can do like open and close parentheses. Um, you know, and things like that. Okay, so for comments, any sort of comment like this, you are allowed to use special characters. Okay, so you can put spaces and semicolons and colons and dollar signs or whatever. That's fine if it's there. You just can't do that in file names. Remember, file names must be either letters, underscore, or numbers. If you want to do a number, you come down here and hit the number. Okay, and then when you're done, don't forget to hit enter. Okay, if you arrow out some other way, it may not get saved properly. So hit enter to save that comment. Okay, so are there any other questions on what I'm asking you to do for the lab and how to get it into Blackboard? All right, so I see almost everybody's logged on today, which is nice. So, you know, if you know, anytime during the week, if you guys are struggling, don't hesitate to either email me or call me, and if you need to, we can just do a one-on-one and do that. So, all right. So, is there any other questions?